Welcome to Delta Renaissance. I'm your host, Sade Turnipseed, and on today's show, I have the Honorable Mayor of Mound Bayou, Reverend Darryl Johnson. Welcome. Welcome back. Welcome back.
I am so glad to be on your show. It's always a treat being with
Get it right.
One of the greatest Delta ladies.
I have to pop my collar.
The Oprah Winfrey of this South.
I love it. Everybody go run tell Oprah. But no, it is. It's really great. We got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
have, since the last time you were here, you've been elected mayor of the city. And so this is all new stuff that we're going to talk about.
Yes.
And you've brought all kinds of wonderful research on your city. And we're going to take our time and talk about all the scholarship that's sitting here on the table. So, hey, let's just reacquaint everybody as to who this fine gentleman is.
Well, I am a descendant of the early settlers of Mound Bayou. 4 of them that were early settlers of Mound Bayou. And they came into Mound Bayou and founded a town. And I was born and raised in Mound Bayou. My wife was born and raised in Mound Bayou.
Who's your wife?
My beautiful wife, Beverly C. Johnson. She was Beverly Coleman Johnson. And I brought her into the fold and made her a Johnson. Of course, we have 3 beautiful children as well and 1 grandchild. And like I said, I was raised in Mound Bayou, and my wife was raised there. And we just had a great burden for the city. And we decided to stay and do the work of the Lord.
Lovely. Because you do have a church. I did mention that you're Reverend, but you can tell us which church that is.
I pastored since 1983. Started the Walk of Faith ministry, and out of it came the Walk of Faith Church. And in 1998, we joined the Evangelical Covenant Church. Denomination now, we are Walk of Faith Covenant Church.
Okay.
But we've been doing ministry in the Mississippi Delta since 1983.
And not only that, you're a businessman. You got all kinds of
Several,
involvements.
we'll just say several businesses.
So now tell us about becoming mayor, you know?
Well, this is an exciting trip. I tell people I feel like I was called to this job. It was more so of an urging from the Lord to run this term. Of course, before we had another Johnson, Mayor Johnson, and we were very supportive of them. But it seemed as though it was my turn, and so I believed it, and we went out and told the people that we were running this term, and the people saw fit to put me in, and now here I am. And in July of 2014, I raised my hand and promised to take them on for the next 4 years.
I was there.
Thank you so much for being there, Sade.
I was. It was really great. The swearing-in ceremony. It was a beautiful program. But now, tell us about your vision, because you did outline it a little bit during your inaugural address. But share with the audience what your vision is for Mound Bayou.
I have I tell people I have an aggressive vision, and you're one of the ones that really helped stir that vision up, coming in and talking about doing what you're talking about doing as far as the museum is concerned, and cotton pickers, and that's why I was really excited about you taking those steps. It proved to people that we could take those steps. But my vision is kind of like that from that side. That I really believe that Mound Bayou could be the premier African American city in the United States. It was
as it once was.
As it once was. It was the place that people revered, and we had people in the past, such as Booker T. Washington, who spoke into the lives of the people in Mound Bayou, and other Black history greats that were involved with Mound Bayou and the success of Mound Bayou. So I myself pretty excited about that, but yet in that vision, I wanted to see us be able to memorialize. Now, at this time, I believe it's time for memorialization. We need to memorialize what has happened in African American history. That's why I'm excited about the Cotton Pickers Museum, because it is part of that memorialization. What I want to add to that is a campus of museums. We've been in talks with the Black Church, and we're looking at a Black Church museum that will memorialize the events of the Black Church coming up through Black history. That is a great history. That is a great history as what happened in the Black Church, how even in tradition, that in the Black Church there are things that cannot be recognized anywhere else but in the Black Church. Just like the old Dr. Watts that used to be saying, and people used to sing in code. Some of those things are still in the Black Church. We want to memorialize that. As well as bring the old church back, show the old church, and show how people used to have to come on the plantation, and they would raise the windows and they would sing a certain hymn, and they knew it was time to come to church. So I want to memorialize that, as well as there were so many inventions that were done, and people in the fields, and people on the plantations, and people that were slaves actually invented things, and they didn't get the credit.
Right.
We want to bring all of those back and show people what blacks did, what African Americans did, and memorialize that and talk about all of these different inventions. And there's some other things that we're looking at, and what we want to do is make Mound Bayou the place to come and see it. I can see us in the future bringing in other organizations and coming in having conventions. They said that the Mississippi Delta is the poorest, one of the poorest places geographically in the United States. It's up there to the top. But when we can do these types of things and bring in commerce through tourism, it'll change what the Mississippi Delta is.
We're going to take a break and come back, because on that point, though it is so-called the poorest region in the country, it has the richest culture.
We are very rich.
And the richest story
we
to
are
tell.
Very rich.
So we're going to take a break and come right back and continue this conversation with the Reverend.
All right. You get my.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Especially when you get to preaching.
That guy he was like,
yeah. He all engrossed in
yeah,
your words.
All in it.
Well, we ready. Come on back. We ready. Okay, so we continue that.
Okay.
What was Welcome back. I'm in the studio today talking with the Honorable Mayor, Reverend Darryl Johnson. And, you know, what you were just speaking on really got me excited, as everybody tell you were as well. But yeah, I can visualize that. I can really see a complex of museums, or one specifically that is designed around the black churches and telling the history and the narrative of all of our wonderful accomplishments, and that was always the place where folks went.
That's right. As
refuge, but then also to come together and mastermind and brainstorm about what kinds of programs and projects we need to do.
Exactly.
And then I was just visualizing that brush arbor kind of setup, and then as it evolved to these mega churches. But is that what you had in mind, or what all?
Well, one of the greatest parts of our history in Mound Bayou was when that train used to come to Mound Bayou with the settlers.
Yeah.
And those settlers would get off the train, and they would, the ladies would take the guns, and they would keep all of the bears and the wild animals off, and the men would break down the sticks and take the brush, and they built this brush arbor, and as history tells it, that the first structure built was a brush arbor, where they would, because what they said is that we want to have a place where we can worship God freely, and they meant that because beforehand they couldn't even worship God. They had to sing in code, and they had to talk in code, and they had to do things in code. But now they would have a place in Mound Bayou, Mississippi, where they could worship God freely. The first place was built was a brush arbor, and it eventually became Green Grove Baptist Church, and eventually became First Baptist Church in Mound Bayou, Mississippi, as it is now. But in that structure were all different denominations, and out of it came the AME Church. Out of it came another Baptist church. Out of it came the Presbyterian Church. And out of it came the Catholic Church. And so all of these different churches came out of that one brush arbor.
That's a huge lesson in there.
It
and
definitely
that is
is
something that people need to understand and hold on to, and probably even get back to, so that we can work together again. And all these different, sects, or not sects so much, but what is it called? The denominations.
Yes.
The different denominations that have caused us to go to these different churches and not talk anymore, not come back together and brainstorm like we once did, which was our salvation. So how do we save ourselves? By coming back to the brush arbor. Ooh, you done figured something out.
That's beautiful. Because what went on in that brush arbor is what traditionally kept going on. It was not just a place where you could meet and worship God, but it was also a place where you could meet and talk about what you were going to do.
Exactly.
It was the meeting. It was the community center. It was the place, and it was the place as they came out of slavery. It was the place as they went through civil rights. It still has become the place in the black community that we meet and not just talk about God, but we talk about Monday, and we talk about Tuesday and Wednesday, and so on and so on. So it's where we continuously meet to talk about life.
I love it. I love it. I think you're onto something. So what are some of the other plans? Now, I know for those who don't know Mound Bayou, quickly just give us, again, just a perspective on what this city is and how significant it is.
So how quick do you want it?
I know,
because
right?
Mound Bayou is the oldest black community, African-American community in the country. And we pride ourselves in it, that Mound Bayou was an experiment. And it was stamped successful. During the time that Mound Bayou was being built in the early 1900s, whereas Cleveland had 500 people population in this peripheral and in Cleveland in the city limits, Mound Bayou had 8,000 people in the whole peripheral, where people were coming in and trying to get to Mound Bayou because, as cotton was concerned, and that was the subject at that time, cotton was king in Mound Bayou. And if you can get the Mound Bayou stamp on your cotton, you had the best premium cotton in the world.
And can sell it at the highest price.
And you could sell it at the highest price because it was Mound Bayou cotton.
Yeah.
So even farmers used to come to live around Mound Bayou so they can bring their cotton into Mound Bayou. It was up to 60 businesses at that time.
And how many gins you had?
You had 6 gins working at the same time, cotton gins.
All black owned.
All black owned, everything. It was a place they said that blacks didn't have to run from the sheriff; they ran for the sheriff. So Mound Bayou was a place where blacks could see success and see themselves blossom and bloom as they were supposed to have been. The slave owners didn't know what they had. They had intelligent people. They had good people.
Oh, they knew what they had. That's why they put them in charge of the plantation. Now tell the real story.
Okay, if you want me to tell the real story,
go there.
I can kind of bag up. Joseph Davis is the brother of Jefferson Davis,
as we know as the president of
the Confederacy. I always say this: Jefferson Davis was financially successful, but his big brother Joseph Davis was the one that was giving him money. Joseph Davis was so successful because there was a man on his plantation that ran his whole plantation conglomeration. And that person was named Benjamin T. Montgomery. That was the daddy of I.T. Montgomery.
Who was the founder of
Mound Bayou. Now, the reason that he was so successful, because he was so intelligent, he ran the plantation to its he got more cotton per acre than anybody else. And he taught that type of formula to all the farmers. He brought them in and showed them, all of these different men and they learned how to read, as a matter of fact, on that plantation, because Joseph Davis allowed them. I think he kind of turned his back and let them sit in the law office and law library and read. They would go home.
Encouraged them.
Yeah, but it was from a old way they call Owenism, and that's the book that he read,
right.
And he learned how to have this utopia society.
Exactly, and it was encouraged. They weren't. I mean, Joseph Davis was not trying to be racist in the classic sense,
exactly.
Where he was trying to be superior, and they were, keeping them in an inferior place. He encouraged them to get this knowledge and to take leadership. And
exactly.
To take on. So we're going to take a break and come back. But I know we got so much to talk about. Darryl, you get me so excited every time you come, because this is really great history. This is the stuff that really excites me. And yes, Mound Bayou is one of those places that we should all know about and study. And we got tons and tons of books to talk about in the next segment. So y'all come on back.
We get to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's the book right there.
Yes,
oh, Shira. I hear that all the time.
All right, so now we're going to spend the next 8 minutes, because it's going to go quick,
I'm going to talk fast.
talking about all these books. So
Okay.
you can pick which one you want to raise up and discuss more at length, but
Okay.
you can just go there. I'm ready whenever you
We'll
are.
put this one up.
Okay.
This, yeah, I just won't deal with that one.
Okay.
Okay. You know I'm all over the place. I can just go wherever you can take me.
Welcome back. I'm in the studio today with one of my old buddies. I think one of the first people I met when I came to the Delta, and definitely the first person I met when I started talking about this Cotton Pickers of America monument project that we want to bring to Mound Bayou in Bolivar County. But long story there. But here before us, we have all of this, a lot of scholarship on your city. And why don't you just kind of take a pick and just walk us through what's being said here.
I need to say this. African American history, because we really, and I say we, African Americans really didn't tell a story, because we were not in a position to tell a story. Other people told our story. So the real African American history really needs to be told. And I'm excited because we have so many professors and other people now are telling our real story, which is different. People get amazed about Mound Bayou. But to tell an African American story, you must visit Mound Bayou. You have to come and talk about Mound Bayou because it's important. And I have just this book by Janet Sharp Herman. Now there are professors in African American and professors in history and Mississippi history telling people you have to read this book.
And it's called The Pursuit of a Dream.
It's called The Pursuit of the Dream. This is so educational because it tells the story, the real story of Joseph Davis, who's the brother of Jefferson Davis. It tells the story of Benjamin T. Montgomery and how he at one time was asked to run for governor. This was a slave, a former slave. Now he's asked to run for governor because he was so intelligent. And the people, they were finding out the intellect of the African American on those plantations was way beyond what they could believe. And so they were discovering all of this, and so they were highly, highly respected. This book will absolutely fascinate you. There's another book, because Mound Bayou was so financially successful. This is called The Chief Lieutenant of the Tuskegee Machine, Charles Banks of Mississippi. He was actually Charles Banks of Mound Bayou, Mississippi.
Yeah.
But anytime that you look at any pictures of Booker T. Washington and all of his, his cabinet, the guy sitting to his right is always going to be this dark-skinned, good-looking gentleman named Charles Banks. He was from Mound Bayou. He's the one that started the bank in Mound Bayou. Now, the reason why the Mound Bayou Bank stopped working is because there was some people that filed charges against the bank officers and said that they were carrying 100% assets, and no Negro could carry 100% asset. So the charges went through and they closed the bank down. But during that time, you had businesses coming into Mound Bayou. You had people moving and coming into Mound Bayou. So this is a fascinating story of Charles Banks, and I just want to let you know that when I was born, I was raised right beside the Banks home, and I used to go in the Banks home and play before it was torn down. I'm just proud to have known this history of Mound Bayou and to be a part.
And so you were able to you didn't meet him.
I wish I could have met. I wish I could have met Charles Banks, but we have so many great people in Mound Bayou. We have a lot of great Black history makers right there from Mound Bayou.
Was his family still there when you
There are some Banks family members that I'm talking to right now.
Okay.
But the Banks family was not in Mound Bayou. But they left. As a matter of fact, there are some banks right now that own banks, even in Africa.
And the legacy
and it continues in the bank industry.
Yeah.
This is one of the greatest ones. This is a copy of a 1909 book called The Negro at Mound Bayou. And I wish I could show the pictures in here. And I wish I could show the writings in here. The enunciations, the way the people would enunciate words. And you could tell just by reading the readings of these people how they would come up with words that you don't even know. But yet they wrote them, and this is the way they talked. And it's so intellectual to read this type of stuff. Yeah. But it talks about the Black people of the early 1900s, and it's full of pictures, as you can see. And there's a picture of my great-grandmother, Ada Simmons, and other people that's in this book.
Now, it was printed in 1909, and it's out of print now.
It's out of print, and so this is a copy that I got from the Library of Congress.
Oh my goodness! So it's by
A.P. Hood.
P. Hood.
Exactly.
And it's called The Negro at Mound Bayou,
right.
Being an Authentic Story of the Founding, Growth, and Development
of Mound Bayou.
Yeah. Wow. I would love to read that too.
Mound Bayou is a celebrated place, and it has been a celebrated place because of what it has done and how it has taken its place in African American history. But not only that, in civil rights history as well. As you know, you participated with us as we celebrated Dr. T.R.M. Howard's life through naming a highway after him. But
tell us a little bit about T.R.M. Howard, because again, these are one of those untold. I mean, it's amazing how T.R.M.
Howard actually
not known about
is the T.R.M. is Theodore Roosevelt Mason Howard. He was named after Theodore Roosevelt, one of the presidents that came to Mound Bayou.
Right.
Exactly. He came and stopped in Mound Bayou and called it the Jewel of the Delta. T.R.M. Howard was a man, my dad has said, that grew everything big, that did everything big, that always had big shoes, big hats. He was a big man.
And he was a medical doctor.
He was a medical doctor. He came in working with the Taborian Hospital, which was started in 1942. And he came in and started working with that. But he was very much involved with the rights of African Americans. He could not stand to see the things that our state was doing. And he was not, he didn't have a problem talking about it in many ways. But when Emmett Till got killed, was murdered, the reason that we hear about Emmett Till was because of T.R.M. Howard, who would not let it die. He called for investigation. If you go back and look at history, you'll find out that he was the one that was sparring back and forth with Hoover in the newspaper. They would write about he and Hoover talking about that investigation because they really did want to investigate it.
Right.
And so
there's so much more to talk about,
Yes.
Darryl, and man, we're out of time already.
I'm sorry.
But I did want to also mention that T.R.M. Howard was the first person to come in here with a zoo. I mean, he came in.
That was a zoo in Mound Bayou.
Yes, that he brought. And
That's
I'm
right.
very proud of that.
That's
I'm
right.
proud of the fact that he brought a zoo to
That's
the Delta.
right.
But anyway,
That's right.
there's so much history, so much wonderful, wonderful, rich legacies that still exist there. And I'm proud of you for being about historic preservation and doing the work that you're
Yes.
doing. And of course, you already know I'm on your team and I'm a fan, and whatever I can do, I will. And I know feelings mutual, but you'll be back again soon, right?
We're working together.
That's
so,
right.
yes, I'll be back.
So I want to thank the Honorable Mayor, Reverend Darryl Johnson, and say congratulations
Thank you.
officially as the new mayor, and to say thank you to everybody for joining us here on Delta Renaissance.
All right.